Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hope. My name is Tammy Lynn Connors, and this is my YouTube channel and podcast, helping other people evolve. Today, I have the beautiful Joe with me. How are you today, Joe?
I'm doing great, Tammy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on here. So I met Joe through a group on Facebook. It was a recovery group that I just added myself to, I think last week. And then we started chatting a little bit. And yeah, I'm super excited to hear your story.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
excited to share it. I'm excited to
awesome,
share
awesome.
it.
So you live in Oklahoma, you said?
I do live right outside of Oklahoma City.
Okay, how's the weather down there right now?
It is pretty nice.
Yeah.
I'm loving spring. That's my favorite season. So we're just about there.
Yes, yeah, we are too here in Ohio. We've had a really nice winter this year, so it's been super. So
That's
for
good.
those of you that don't know actually what hope is, I started this, my mission and vision was just to help people to know that they don't struggle alone. There's so many people in this world that are at home and they just feel like they're alone in their struggles and nobody else is going through what they're going through. And Joe's story or my story or Lou's story might not be exactly the same as your story, but we all go through struggles. And the greatest part, unfortunately, we went through struggles, but fortunately, we're able to get through those struggles and work on ourselves and be able to share that hope with other people. So that's just what my mission and vision is, that maybe you hear the story today and you're laying on your couch or laying in bed, not wanting to get up, and you'll be like, wait, if Joe got through this, I can get through my day. So that's just my hope and vision with this. You know, Joe, I always tell everybody this on my podcast, you're now my friend, you're stuck with me. So
I love that. That was why I reached out to you, Tammy. I loved what you were saying on the Facebook post, and I was just drawn to reach out to you because we kind of have the same mission of offering hope and encouragement and just being able to share a little bit that you can basically what I always say is you can go from rock bottom to rock solid. It is
yeah.
doable. You can get there. And if just one person hears any little thing that sticks, that's what we're doing.
Yes, that's awesome. I love that rock bottom to rock solid. That's good. That's powerful. Very
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah. So we've been chatting a little bit before we did this interview. And Joe, you grew up in California, you said?
I did. I grew up in San Diego.
Okay. Went to school there and everything?
Yep, went to
Okay.
all the schools, mostly went to high school.
Mostly went to high school.
Sort
When
of.
did you, you're in recovery. We talked about that. So when did you start like using, whether it was whatever it was that you started?
So I started really partying about 11 years old.
Okay, me too.
11, 12, 13, started using, you know, little things at first. Little pink hearts were the big thing back then. Smoking pot, drinking, doing this weird huffing thing with this thing called toiline. Just whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever I could kind of, it was all about fun back then, right? You were just having
Right.
fun and experiencing and adventure. And when it became not so much fun, is when I started doing a lot of meth. And I was pretty innocent looking back then and had a pretty, say I'm good at math. So I was pretty good at sales.
Okay.
So kind of I had that innocent look that I could, kind of get away with things. And I liked boys and men and shiny objects, and that included motorcycles, and started selling drugs a little bit, started selling meth, and it became a little bigger and kind of got away from me. It wasn't fun anymore. Now it was a lifestyle.
Hmm.
And it was one that I found really difficult to get out of. It was chaotic. I would try to get away. Someone would show up at my house. When you make people money, you're a pretty good commodity, right? So
Right.
um, it just goes on. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. And a lot of obviously not so great things. I was pretty young, right? So um, I grew up really in a good family, good neighborhood. Mom and dad still married. Dad was a great provider, not the best nurturer, kind of
Mhm.
controlling person. And I think I was just always out there looking for that affection, you know what I mean? And looking for that love. And that showed up in a lot of different ways. Motorcycles, men, and drugs is how it showed up.
Mhm.
So that sex, drugs, and rock and roll, it was the 80s.
Right, right.
So that is what I was doing. When the partying turns into a lifestyle and it
Mhm.
becomes no longer fun and has control of your life, that's obviously, as we know, when the problems start, right?
Right, for sure.
So there was many years, many years of that. Just a lot of drugs around at a very young age.
Mm.
And I was hanging out at the beach and, just running away and doing all the things that you hear about teenagers doing, times 10, really.
Right.
And, again, my parents tried to help me. My brothers tried to help me. I wasn't having it. I just wanted fun. I wanted adventure. When I ran away at 12, and when I came back, my dad said, "What is it you want me to do?" I said, "I just want you to leave me alone." And he
Mm.
said, I'd love to, but you're 12. And
Right.
I laugh about that now. I'm like,
Right.
what in the heck was I thinking? You know what I mean? I have a 12-year-old.
Mm.
Seriously? Like, no.
No. Right.
Right? So that's funny to me now. I can just imagine how it was for them back then, thinking, what am
Sure.
I going to do with this child? So I just kind of did my thing. I just did what I wanted when I wanted. Got kicked out of a few schools. I was actually a good student and got good grades. I just couldn't stand to be there. I had other things to do, right? I was out making money, right? So I was busy.
Hustling.
I was busy. So got kicked out of high school quite a bit. And when I hit 16, my dad made a deal with me that if I would go straight to college, he would sign my GED. So I got
Mm.
my GED, went straight to college. Literally on my way to college, I'd be selling drugs. You know what I mean? Before I got to go to school, here you go, on my way to school, right? So I did that for about a year and a half. And funny enough, I was in college for juvenile delinquency, introduction to administration of justice. I thought I wanted to be like something in social work or a probation officer, drug counselor, as I'm selling drugs on my way to college, right?
Right.
So it seemed like it made sense. Something I was interested in, right? So
Sure.
so so I did that for a while. Ended up getting involved with somebody. I was 17 now at this time, and I ended up getting involved with somebody who was about 31. And I moved
Okay.
out and we lived together for quite a while, and that was horrific, abusive, ridiculous, all the things for about a year, and finally left that situation. Tried to go back home. I'd already been away from home. That wasn't going to work.
Right.
Um, and so I moved out again and was doing a lot of partying, a lot of drugs, and got very sick, got real sick. And my cousin said to me, have you looked at yourself lately? I was like, nope. And
Mm-mm.
she said, you probably need to. And I went in the mirror and looked at myself, and girl, I looked dead. I'm not even going to lie. I looked like I didn't even recognize myself. I truly didn't. I probably weighed about 98 pounds, black eye, just terrible. And I
Mhm.
was having some kidney problems. And I called, she took me to my mom and dad's house, and they saw me, and that was horrific, and kind of nursed me back to health a little bit. Went to the doctor. I mean, had to get the catheter, had to do the whole thing. Like, I don't even know how long it'd been since I'd used the bathroom. I had paranoia. I couldn't even go to the bathroom at someone's house. Like, it was just terrible. And
And just real quick, Joe,
yeah,
that's kind of what meth will do, right, to you?
yeah.
Yeah, it'll get that paranoid and
That paranoia. Plus, I knew that I was trying to get out of the lifestyle, and there was people not letting me get out of the
oh,
lifestyle. So I was
okay.
constantly looking over my shoulder. So
That is scary.
it was not good. Wasn't a good time. Like I said, it was no longer fun. It was now my life. There was some situations I had got myself into where it was very close to being my life, and I
Mm.
knew I needed to get away.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to my parents, and they said, we got a couple of places you could go. And I ended up leaving when I was 18 and went to Colorado. And I had a friend from San Diego call me and say he was going to come out, and I was going to pick him up at the train station. And, I didn't change my people. I
Mm.
changed my places. I changed my things. I didn't change my people.
Okay.
So here come my people that I'd been trying to get away from, right?
Right.
And he introduced me to some people that he had known already, said we were going to a reunion. And the reunion was some guys that didn't see each other for a while because they had been in jail.
Oh, okay.
So we were having a reunion. So I met someone else. Him and I ended up getting together. He was actually a pretty great guy, even though maybe we weren't doing the best things. He was a good person in my life. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't all of those things, he
Right.
was a good man.
Hmm.
And maybe not doing some of the best things, but he was a good man. And he ended up doing some things, and his brother kind of got involved, told the cops everything he was doing, and he ended up going to prison. And he had really like 30 years in one county, 30 in another, 50 in another, just life basically, right?
Right.
And we talked about maybe a plan to get him out of there.
Hmm.
And I went and met with someone to talk about getting him out of there, and ended up getting myself in trouble, and ended up getting a prison sentence myself and
Mm.
going to prison. So, as you can
When you
imagine, that's
at what
super
age?
fun.
19?
19. Yeah, I think I had just turned 19. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That has
So,
been scary.
you know, at the time, um, where I was at in my state of mind and my own street life, it seemed the norm, I
Oh,
guess, so to speak.
right.
Everybody I knew was in and out of prison. They had either died or they were in prison. That's pretty much
Yeah.
the life that I led, right? So now, if today somebody told me I was going to prison for 5 years, that's a different story.
Mm, okay.
Back then, I couldn't internalize it. I couldn't understand. I couldn't, I wasn't hearing it. I just wasn't hearing it. I locked it in the little compartment like we do, and I
Mm-hmm.
went on with not hearing it. And it was true. It happened. So I just had to deal with that, and kind of realized that I really didn't belong there. Not that anybody belongs there. Let me take that back. That
Right.
that's not where I wanted to be. That's not where
Right.
I wanted to live my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I wanted for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
it was never really what I wanted for myself. I always just thought I was having fun, and I would be done with that fun sometime, but that's just not how addiction works, is it?
No, it's not. Can I
It's
ask you real quick?
sure, of course.
When you got put sent to prison
Mhm.
and you told your parents, how did
Mhm.
they react to that?
That's kind of a funny story. I didn't tell them. Um,
Oh,
I
okay.
went to jail and was still thinking I didn't do anything and I'm going to get out of here, right? And so I didn't call them.
Okay.
And my best friend from California was actually supposed to be coming to visit with me that weekend, as a matter of fact. And I had to call her and tell her not to come. And she said, "Well, what are you going to tell your parents?" I said, "I'm not telling them anything."
Mm,
She was like, "Joe, you can't not." I'm like, "Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I mean, I may get out of here tomorrow." I still wasn't hearing it.
right.
I didn't, they told me I was facing just 16 to 32 years. And
Ooh,
I wasn't dealing with that. I just wasn't hearing it. I'm like, "No, I'm going to get out of here, whatever."
right.
So they basically told me, if you get on the stand and tell them what they want to hear, you're going to get out of here. And I was like, "Well, what do they want to hear?" "Well, they want to hear that he made you do everything you did." And I said, "I'm not doing that."
Right.
That's never going to happen. So I guess I'm here for 16 to 32 years.
Wow.
And so that's when it finally started sinking in. I know I'm not getting up there and saying nothing. So I guess I'm here now.
Mm,
And I wasn't facing 16 to 32 years. Some of those charges got dropped, and they couldn't, there was some things I didn't do that they couldn't make stick. And my actual charge was aiding and abetting an escape.
okay.
So um, I didn't call, and she called my parents and said, "This is what's happening." So her and my mom came that weekend. It was supposed to be just
Oh,
her coming to see me. So her and my mom came, and my poor mom had to see me in jail. And because I was an escape risk, so to speak, I had on this red jumpsuit, right? And everybody else was wearing orange. And they
oh,
had me handcuffed and shackled, and nobody else was, right? And my mom
mm,
was looking like, "You
oh,
haven't been gone that long. What has happened?" Right? So she's like,
right.
what have I missed?
Yeah.
And of course, the detective got up and said a lot of really not great things. And that was the first time really that I had to face what I was doing to my family and my parents, because I saw my mom's strong, but I saw the look on her face like, my daughter's not a monster. What is happening? And
Right.
seeing me there and everybody else separate and me in the red with the handcuffs and the shackles, it was a lot. That's a lot for her.
Sure.
and I felt bad. And she
Mhm.
came and saw me afterwards and said, just get up and say whatever they want you to say. I want to take you home. And I said, it's not happening. I'm sorry, Mom. I can't do that. She's like, what do you mean? You know, that whole thing.
Yeah,
If you've never lived the lifestyle and you've never been around it, you can't understand that that's just not something that you do.
right.
And no matter what, you know, they could have told me I had life. It wasn't happening.
Mhm.
So I just dealt with it. I put myself there, right? People, places, things. I
Yeah,
did it. I got to deal with it. So that's kind of just what happened there. So I was in, you know, jail for quite a while till they finally take you to prison, and you know, you just go through it. You just do the day to day. You go to work. I couldn't work outside because that little escape issue. So in the beginning, I could just be in the kitchen. That finally changed towards the end. But um, when I was paroled, they told me that I would get paroled, and I thought I was going to get right out, right? Be paroled out. I didn't know. I'd never been to prison before.
right.
And when it came time to it, they wanted to send me to a halfway house. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And they said, well, you have to do it. I said, no, I don't. I really don't have to do nothing. And I didn't want to do that because I wanted my life to change. I didn't want to go back to the same playground because I already knew what would happen. I'm like, you guys, come on. So they paroled me. And once they told me I was leaving and going to a halfway house that night, I said, I'm not going. They said, you have to go. I said, no, I don't. So they took me and put me in the hole and tried to talk to me for hours and reason with me. And I said, I'm not going. And they said, you realize this means you have to start over and go back to max and start from scratch. And I said, okay. They were
Mm,
like, you were like the most stubborn person in the world, you know? And I'm like, I want to do what's best for me.
right.
And I need to do what's best for me right now. Whether you understand it, don't understand it, I'm not concerned with that. I need to do what's best for me. So I got a chance to go back in front of the parole board again. And it was basically because the guy couldn't believe that I didn't leave. He said, I've never had this happen. And I just need to hear what in the heck would make you not leave when you were paroled, you know?
Right.
And I said, if I tell you, are you going to hear me? Are you going to listen? He said, I'm ready. I'm listening. I'm here. And the room was like silent. They were staring at me like I was an idiot, you know?
Right.
So,
Sure.
and I said, look, you've had control of me now for 3.5 years.
Mhm.
And I didn't do so great controlling myself before. You've had it for the last 3.5 years, which hasn't been so great. And I'm ready to do better. And you're trying to kick me out of here and put me back in the same playground I was in before. And
Mm,
that's the main thing about recovery, your people, places, and things. And you're saying, no, but we need you to go back there. I'm not going backwards, I'm going forwards.
mhm.
And he said, wow. I get you, and I understand. And he said, well, are you just scared to go back? Is someone going to hurt you? I said, you're damn friggin' right. I'm scared to go out there again. I'm afraid I'm going to hurt myself.
Mm,
And I said, I'm not worried about anybody else at this moment. I'm worried about me.
mhm.
And he said, okay, I'm going to parole you again. You're still going to have to do the rest of your time. I'm like, okay. And he said, I'm going to parole you out straight out, but you're going to have to go back to max and start all over. And I said, okay. So I went back to max, started all over, and then finally got paroled out to some friends of mine. Um, been friends since I was like 8 years old.
Okay.
Biker friends again, but the good kind, the good side. Not doing math, not selling drugs, and got paroled out and started kind of getting my life back together. You know, I wasn't healthy. I was still broken. I still had a lot of the same issues of the codependency and the looking for love in all the wrong places and doing all those things. And I got together with someone that was pretty abusive. And I actually got together with him because he was totally different than anybody I was ever with. So I thought, right? And
Mhm.
actually it was horrific. So that didn't last very long. I'm not real good with the abusive stuff. I'm not I'm a little bit scrappy, so I'm not I'm not real good with that.
Right. Right.
Um, so that didn't last too long, and got away from that, and got myself single for a while and worked on me, and you know, kind of just worked on me for a while. And then I did get together with someone else that I was together for quite a while. We did split up, and unfortunately, he ended up committing suicide in 2013. So that, that was hard. There was a lot of guilt with that. And, we weren't together anymore. And there was just a lot of what ifs and, trying to deal with that all again. And I've had a lot of suicide in my life, a lot of people that have killed themselves, a lot of overdoses, as you can imagine, and a
Right,
lot of
right.
suicide. So it's just something that's always been a part of my life. But that was real too close for comfort.
Sure.
And
How long had you guys been split up when he did that?
we had been split up for quite a while. Our divorce was final in 2005, but we were back and
Okay.
forth, back and forth, back and forth. In
Mhm.
2007 is why I moved back to Oklahoma. Actually, him and I were going to get back together, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah,
And so we were still friends. We still talked. We still messaged, all those things.
right.
And he had texted me the night before he had killed himself that he needed a friend. And I just knew. I knew it in my gut. I knew it. And the next morning, I started getting the phone calls. My phone was blowing up from a different area code. So I knew. I absolutely already knew it. When my friend got on the phone, he said, "Hey," I said, "He did it, didn't he?" I mean, he didn't have to say anything. I just, you're connected to someone,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
I just knew. And so that's been hard. I
Sure,
didn't, we weren't even married, and that has just been hard.
sure.
And I think it's been so hard because I've been sober through it. And I
Right.
never really dealt with all those feelings before sober.
Mm-hmm.
So that was challenging, right? That's definitely been a thing. And I've learned a lot about myself through that,
Sure,
and
sure.
why I keep doing the same things over and over, and the same patterns and the same behaviors, and really, really been working on all of that. So I have been living in Oklahoma ever since. And just kind of trying to live right and do the right thing. And I've always been someone that people come to with everything. I'm
Right.
always the one that they come to. I'm always the one that they call. Always talking people through everything. And so it's funny because you can talk to other people about everything and you have all these great answers. And when it comes to yourself, you just do the same dumb shit over and over and over again, right?
I always tell people, I'm always like, now just because I talk about it doesn't mean I do it.
Right. It's
You
true.
know?
It's true.
Yeah.
And trauma is 90% of addiction, right? People that have addictions, 90% I think they say is related to trauma. And that is totally true. And everybody deals with trauma different. There's so many different kinds of trauma, right? Different forms.
Sure.
And I think I was just dealing with a lot of that being at such a young age when all this started, and getting involved in sex too early, getting involved in drugs too early, and I don't want to say being taken advantage of, even though that was the case. I mean, we're talking about people that were 10, 20 years older than me.
Right. Yeah.
I look at that now and think, what the heck,
Right.
I was young, I was impressionable, I was going to do what they told me to do, right? So um, you know, dealing with a lot of that and dealing with that guilt and shame over some of the things that I did or went through or that have happened has been it's been tough.
Sure.
And I get why recovery is so hard, because you have to deal with everything. But you
Mhm.
really have to deal with it when you're in recovery. You have to get it out, you have to live it, you have to learn why you do the things you do so you don't continue to do them, right?
Yeah, because I mean that's what they say, insanity, right? Keep
Right.
doing the same thing over and over and over again, and
Girl,
expecting different results. And no matter what, when you start doing those things and it's the same that you did before, you're just
yeah.
step right back where you were at.
And it's been constant, and it's been the pattern and the behaviors, and I still have some of them that I'm working on,
Yeah.
they don't
Oh
go
yeah.
away. You have to keep working on them. And you have to know that about yourself, and you have to learn that about yourself. And, it is good to talk to other people. It is good to share your story. It is good to hear other people's story and know that there is other ways. There is other ways to cope, and there's other ways to get through life. And it's not boring, it's peaceful.
Mhm. Yeah.
Huge difference. And
Sure.
I used to always tell my brother, he told me last time he was out here, which just was a couple months ago, you were radical. And I never saw myself that way. That would have never been a word I used to describe myself, right? But he was like,
Right.
you were just radical. I had to physically remove you from places. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's correct. I never saw that side of myself, but you have to listen to what people tell you, right?
Right. Right. So
And
now, do you have any sisters or just brothers?
just brothers. So
Yeah.
I grew up with boys, and that's what I knew, and I never had that. I had my best friends, my best friend and a couple girlfriends, but I was never one to just hang out with a bunch of girls
Mhm,
ever. It was
mhm,
always a bunch of guys.
mhm.
And that's been a process for me to learn, especially the last few years, that you need good women support in your life.
Yeah,
You need it.
for
And I
sure.
didn't realize that. I never really understood that was a thing until just the last couple years.
Mm,
So I think that's something important to learn for people too. When you really start digging deep and getting to know yourself and your behavior and stuff, why is it you do those things that you do? And that was just my comfort level. I was just
sure.
much more comfortable around men because that's what I'd been around. But that's also been a lot of my problems, and
Right, right.
where all that started, right? Where all that doing things too young started. So,
Yeah,
a lot of abuse and a lot of things like that. You got to take yourself away from that playground, right?
right, for
So
sure.
I definitely feel like I've done that, and
Yeah,
I've had a good life. I've made a good life for myself, and I would lie in the beginning when I first got out. I couldn't get a good job. I could
right.
not get a good job. I get jobs. I mean, I got jobs, but I started getting frustrated because I would see people look at my applications and then like look out the window at me and be wanting to come out and like see like my face didn't match my application. And so they were
Mhm,
like wanting to hear my story, and it became I finally had to ask somebody, what is happening? Why are you doing that? And
right.
he said, because your face doesn't match your story. And I that clicked in me and I thought I'm going to use that. So I started lying. I never put it on my application anymore. It
Mhm,
wasn't that I couldn't get jobs. I just felt like I needed to, I wanted to work back in preschool again. Well, you can't
okay,
get a job in preschool when you have that on your application. Now
right.
you can't anyways. They do fingerprint cards and things like that. They didn't back then.
Mhm,
And I started getting better jobs and I started doing better and just picking myself up, just picking myself up one foot in front of the other. Better job, better job. I got into sales, got into real estate, got into flipping houses a little bit here and there, got into just mainly sales has been my career, always
mhm,
in and out of people's homes doing in-home sales. So I never really told my story too much, obviously, because
right,
you're in people's homes. That's not what you're there for, right? You're there to
right.
sell, and they don't really want you in your home sometimes when they hear your story, right?
Sure,
So, so
right.
it's, just again in the last couple of years telling my story. It
Yeah,
has been pretty recent, really, to put it all out there anyway.
sure,
Not all the details, but you get the gist of it, right?
sure. Right, right. Now you said your son is 12?
Yes, he's
Yeah,
12 and I had him really late. I'm old.
you're
So,
not old, but
well, older, I'm older. And but he says sometimes to this day, I got the mom I got. You're so much smarter than other moms because you're old. And I just say, I'll take that, son. I'll take it.
yeah.
But I wasn't ready to have a child when I was in my 20s or 30s, or I was not ready. And so I am thankful for him. He has kept me grounded for sure.
Mm,
And we've kind of grown up together, so to speak, really, even though
yeah.
I'm older. And he's a great kid. I am very, very fortunate, but he's 12. And so there's something inside this mama that whoo, when he's wanting to go do things, I'm like, oh gosh, that age, and I
Right.
get a little scared and I have to learn to not put my stuff on him because he's
Mhm,
not the same kid that I was at all. At
right,
all. This kid is built for military. I was not. So,
right.
so I have to really, really take note of myself doing that because I see it sometimes. And
Oh, I can 100% relate to that, and I'm just gonna interrupt real quick here because
yeah.
my son, so his dad was incarcerated most of his life, and I was so he always was like, "Mom, you made alcohol sound like it was the devil," and I'm like, "'Cause it was, right? Like it was, but that's the way that I was with him. Like, and the same thing, like when he was going places, I'd be like, ah, and I'd be like, and I remember my one friend telling me, like, you got to let go a little bit, you're like encasing him,
Yeah.
trying to protect him from the world. And I remember what he did to me because she's like, you better stop accusing him of like smoking pot or doing this or that. So one day I went into his drawer to get something and he was in his bed and there was a bag there. And I was like, what is this? Right. And he was like, oh my gosh. And he did the whole like, it's so and so's or whatever he said. Well, here it wasn't anything. It was like oregano that he did this on purpose
Ooh.
because he wanted to be like, Mom, stop. stop. And that's when I realized, like, he's not me, right? I
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah.
he's gonna live his life. I
Yeah.
can be there to direct him the
Mhm.
best that I know how, but he's not who I was.
Right.
Oh, and
Absolutely.
he's
That's
34
hard.
now, and he's a great man. I guess
Yeah.
man, it's so weird saying that about him, but he's 34, and does he drink a little bit? Yeah, he does. Does he go overboard? No, because he
Yeah.
was so
Yeah.
afraid because he
Yeah.
saw what it did to his dad and what it did to
Sure.
me,
Yeah.
And so, but it's that whole coddling and protecting him from everything. Just like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know. It's like, I don't know for me if it's like a protecting. I get anxiety because I think, oh gosh, this is the age it's going to start, and I get all worried about it. And literally I could write a book just on that because it gives me,
Mm,
whew, you know what I mean? And I have to not really, really try hard not to put that on him
right,
and let him go. And, okay, text me. Like, he knows he can talk to me about anything, right?
right,
I didn't have that,
right,
when I was his age. I didn't feel that I had that
right.
anyways. Um, it was a different generation, different, kids were be quiet. You know what I mean? We didn't do a lot of feelings at my house. You know
Right.
what I mean? We
Yeah.
did.
Oh,
I said,
yeah.
I said, do this. That's what we did at my house. We
Right.
didn't do a whole lot of feelings.
Right.
So I'm all about the feelings right now. So him and I do that. Like, we have a great relationship, and I just have, like you said, he's not me. So,
Right.
but I think that's something that all of us have been through, that probably struggle a little bit with.
Sure. Yeah.
Or
Now, have you been sober since he's been born?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Since he's
Okay.
been born, definitely. Alcohol was never an issue. Well, I won't say never an issue for me.
Okay.
Alcohol is not an issue for me.
Okay.
I am not, never had alcoholism or alcoholic tendencies, really. So am I someone that can have a drink every now and then and be social? Yeah, I can. Do I really do that too much? No, I don't. Just because the playground thing,
Sure.
it's with very select friends that I'll have drinks.
Mhm.
Because I know my area, I know my surroundings, I know, we're good.
Right.
But I don't, I try not to too much, not too much. I have like a friend that plays in a band. We might go watch every once in a while. That's about the extent of it.
Mhm.
So I am very careful still where I put myself in the surroundings, because I have had times throughout the years that I've started, partying again or partying too much and going, okay, wait a minute, what are you doing? And I've always been able to get control of it again, but it's a lifelong thing. It is not a one size fits all. It is a lifelong journey, and knowing yourself and knowing your patterns and knowing your behaviors is so, so, so important.
Yeah, that's really, really, truly important, and you'll see now that we've been friends and stuff, you'll see that I do go out dancing a lot.
Mhm.
It's just what I love to go
Yeah,
dancing.
that's great.
And I've had friends say to me, because they say those things like, you sit in a barber shop long enough, you're gonna get your hair cut. And that's a AA saying,
Yeah,
probably NA, but
all of it.
a couple of my friends would call me when I would go out like that, and they're like, you're sitting in those bars, and I'm like, here's the difference. For one thing, I know myself, right? And I'm making a choice. I don't go sit at a bar. I
Right.
don't just go to a bar to sit. If my friends are gonna go to shoot pool or something, I'm kind of like, not really my thing. I'll go do this instead.
Mhm.
Now, to go to dance, I'm
Yeah,
just going to dance. I'm not
yeah,
going to sit at a bar. And
yeah,
so people need to, like you said, like I know who I am and
yeah,
and if I don't feel comfortable, like
yeah.
you said, I'm nope, I'm gonna zigzag away from that place because
Mhm.
I don't
But how
ever
long have you been in recovery? How long have you been in recovery?
20 years last Saturday,
Oh,
March 9th.
well,
Thank
congratulations.
you.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
So, I mean, you do know yourself at a different level. And I am not going to sit here and say 20 years you can't relapse, because you can, and I know
Oh,
people that
sure
it's
you
happened
can.
to. But sometimes we're just in a different space. We're just in a
Yeah.
different place, in a different space, in time, in our lives, that's not even
Oh,
that is not an issue for me at this moment in time.
right, right.
Um, if it ever
Yeah.
became an issue, I would deal with that for sure.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. Like, if I ever had that thought, because I never even had that thought in my head, like,
Right.
maybe I could have just one drink. Like, some people will ask me, they're like, "Could you just have a glass of wine?" And I'm like, "You know what? For one thing," and this is something I tell a lot of people when they call me and, they're starting new in recovery and stuff, like, remember how sick you are right now and why you quit, right? I will never, ever forget how deathly ill I was. Like you said, you weighed like 95 pounds. I weighed 85 pounds when I quit drinking. And
Mm,
I mean, I'd had pancreatitis 3 times.
yeah.
My liver was failing, my cheeks, it was bad. And
Yeah.
so I will never forget, like I get PTSD if I start vomiting right now. And
I
if
get
I
it.
do or something,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't go back there.
You can
And
feel it. It's like
oh,
it's a body reaction. Your mind
yeah.
remembers, your body remembers. You're like, no.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
I mean, I've had that happen, like, throughout the years, like, if I hurt my knee or something, I don't even know what I would ever have used it for, but I've had a doctor prescribe me Vicodin, and
yeah.
I've taken it not thinking anything of it, and it was never my drug of choice, but I'm gonna tell you what, once it starts wearing off me, I start vomiting, and, like, my body goes through a withdrawal like that.
Oh, wow.
Just that quick, and I'm like, "Nope, I cannot ever go back there," and I talk about this a lot. I'm a big believer, and I know by the grace of God that he really, when I laid on that floor and I cried and I said, "God, I need your help. I can't do this on my own," and
Yeah.
that's when my whole everything just really changed, that I was able to do that, and I just like, when I go out dancing, I just like to let people know you don't have to live in a shell,
Yeah.
there's a big
Yeah.
world out there.
Yeah.
God doesn't put a bubble around me every day saying, Tammy, I'm going to protect you from everything in the world.
No.
But I do like people to know that you can still live life. You don't have to, mask it with the drugs and the alcohol and things.
Yeah.
I think it's really
Yeah.
important. So,
Very important.
yeah.
When I first got arrested, my public, I always say pretender, public defender, I had to think of the word, public defender said to me, don't you dare get up there and say you found God, right?
Right.
And and at that time, I didn't really know what to do with that, right? Now I'm scared, like she put this like fear of God in me or something,
Mhm.
right? And that's not what she was trying to say. She was like, don't get up there and be fake and say I found God. But
Oh,
at that moment, it to me, it was like, don't find God. Like, I don't know
right.
what I thought. I was just in a weird place, you know? And then my cellmate was very, very religious, and she would read to me every night out of the Bible, right?
Uh-huh.
Every night, every single night. She would read out of the Bible, and I'm thinking, am I gonna be, what's gonna happen? I was so confused. I'm like, I'm not supposed to find
Sure.
God, and she's reading to the Bible. And so I was just in the weirdest place
Oh, geez.
of my brain, just not, I don't know what it was. It was so weird. And then once I finally got over that and realized maybe what she meant, I just took it a whole different direction, because we had a weird religion growing up at my house when I was a kid. My dad was Jewish, my mom was Christian. We had this Christmas tree that was a wooden star that was decorated with tinsel. So we were all over the place, right? So I'm like, what do you mean don't find God? So I was like weirded out by that in the beginning. And then
Yeah.
when I finally really did find God and started going to church and was doing it not to just get out of my cell, but to actually benefit from it,
Mhm.
then it all kind of started to stick, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
But it definitely took a while. It
Oh, I'm
definitely
sure that had to be so confusing.
so
Like,
weird.
yeah. It's,
I can laugh about it now. I can laugh, and it probably doesn't sound like much to somebody else. I can laugh about it now, but at the time, it was really a thing.
no, I'm sure. And I'm sure because, a lot of people that go to prison,
Yeah.
or they always are like, usually I found God, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Until they get out. And then
Right.
a lot of people are like, well, really, I didn't. I mean, even with my son's dad, I said that about him. Like when he got out, I mean, we knew he'd never change. He was on parole for a year with a ankle bracelet and stuff. And the day he got done, he started back to where he was at, but he never once said that. Like, I
Oh,
found God.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It was unfortunate, but
Yeah.
he just never did, and he never got better, and it was sad. And he did end up passing away from a heart attack a few years ago, but just never got it,
Mhm.
and that happens a lot too. But here's the thing, what you said about going from the prison to a halfway house. Basically, you're going, like you said, back to that same
Yeah.
playground, the same
Yeah.
people, places,
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
It might not be the exact same people, but it's the same mentality,
Yeah, I
you
was
know?
very scared of that. I really was, and I don't know what the answer is. I am looking at maybe trying to maybe get a job or do something different with reentry. I'm looking
Mhm.
kind of in that direction right now, because I don't know what the answer is for that. You
Right.
have to go somewhere. You can't just get out with nothing and be expected to. I think I got out with I want to say it was $200, and I had nothing. I had no clothes that fit. I had to borrow underwear like
Right.
from the little closet. I didn't have shoes, but the shoes, nothing fit me. And that is all I had when I got out, and $200. And so I get why they don't send people out like that. I get it, but it it's still that environment of you're not allowed to be around felons, but go live with the felon until I
Right,
tell you can't again.
right.
What?
Yeah, yeah,
So there's a piece missing, there's a part missing, and I don't know what that is. And I've really been thinking a lot about that lately.
yeah,
The
yeah, and
whole
that's true. So my trainer, my gym trainer, he
uh-huh.
actually served 16 years in prison for
Okay.
armed robbery. He's actually we keep trying to do his interview, but we're both just so busy. But and of course, because he's local, so we want to do it together, and
Yeah.
our schedules are just like. But he the same thing when he got out. They're like, you're gonna have to go to this halfway house. You're gonna have to get a job. This, that, and that. And he's like, that's not what I want to do. He's like, he got
Yeah.
certifications and 2 degrees when he was in there. He's like, that's not, and they're like, well, you have to. And he's like, no, I don't have to. Well, he ended up being blessed and lived with his mom. And then we had a big Solheim Cup golf event happening here, and they were able to park cars in his yard. And he ended up getting enough money to rent a space at a gym, get some videographer, and just
Wow.
now he owns a gym. And
That's
that was
great.
just in
That's great.
21. So, but it's the same thing. So now what he's done, so is he's got 2 people coming to his gym that have either been a felon or in prison, and they're going to help them get their certification, help them use a spot at the gym, to
Yeah.
help them get on their feet, so
I love
like you
that.
said, that missing link, because you're
There
going
is.
from there to there,
Yeah,
and if you
there's
have
definitely.
family or friends, then what is the alternative?
And I couldn't go back to my family because I couldn't leave the state, right? So my
Right.
family is all in a totally different state, and I couldn't leave the state. So, thank goodness my friend stepped up and said, "No, they call me Shorty. You come live here, right?" So, um, that was great. And I'm thankful for that. But everybody doesn't have that.
Oh,
So I don't know where. I don't know. I don't know
yeah,
the answer to that, and I know that there's a piece missing. And I'm trying to figure that out.
yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. So yeah.
Now, what are you doing now, Joe?
So now, funny story. So when I reached out to you, it was to talk to you about your podcast because I have
Right.
started a podcast, right?
Awesome.
It's called Breakfast of Choices, and basically life stories of transformation from rock bottom to rock solid.
Right.
And so I am working on that pretty hard right now and talking to a lot of people. I actually did get to do an interview with the person that I went to prison with. He is out.
Oh, okay.
He did end up getting out. So he was my first interview, which I can't tell you how good that felt, uh,
Yes.
to be interviewing that person. Like what an example. Like I said he was a heck of a guy back then. Wow, if you get a chance to listen to his story, it's
I
it's
definitely
it's
will.
pretty great. So I am doing that. I got my state certification for peer recovery support specialist, for recovery and to help people in recovery. I got my transformation life coaching certification, and really trying to work with people in recovery that need some help with transforming and mindset and growth, and learning how to stay away from people, places, and things, and learning, when I got out, I remember them asking me, what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? I, I don't have any hobbies. And most people that are going to prison and getting out of jail and in and out and in and out, those are our hobbies. so,
Right. Right.
so,
Right.
finding yourself and figuring out who you are and what you like to do
Mhm.
is a thing in itself, and
Yeah.
sometimes people don't get a chance to do that till they're 40. They're like, I don't even know who I am, what I like, what I want to do. So kind of trying to help people with that direction, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, I'm trying to figure it out because I have had in sales, my whole life and my whole career. And this is what I've always wanted to do, is help people. And I've always done that on the side, but it's
Right.
just what I want to do. It's what I feel like I am meant to do.
Mhm.
And that's why I connected with you, and I wanted to reach out to you and talk with you about coming on my podcast. And you're like, come on mine. I'm like, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
again, we're all in this together, right?
Right.
Addiction is not just mine, not just yours. We're all in it together. It's a
Yes.
community.
For
And
sure.
I always say, and you've heard this in recovery, addiction is the opposite of connection, right?
Right.
And so it's about connection, and it's about connecting people together, and that networking and getting a new playground
Yeah.
with connection. So
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm doing right now. How it's all
Awesome.
working and gonna work, I don't know, Tammy, but
Yeah.
I'm living my purpose and I'm living from my heart right now. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm led to do right now.
Yeah. And that's what we kind of talked about, that, living in your purpose, walking in that faith,
Yeah.
when you're doing that, it just all starts coming, and it
Yeah.
really does. And, we're still going to stumble. We're still going to
Oh,
have things that get in our way. But if we keep pursuing and keep going, there's really nothing that could stop us but ourselves,
I agree. My brother and I just had that talk and he's repeated it back to me a couple times. The only one getting in your way is you, get
Mhm.
out of your own way.
Yep, that's
There's
it.
nobody else limiting anything. It's just you. Get out of your fear, get out of your head, get out of all of it. And let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah. And something I want to add to that too, because a lot of times, we talk about getting our own head in that. And you were talking a little bit about, your sales, and you were in people's houses, and they, of course, your story. And then we get to that judgment, right?
Yes,
Of people
absolutely.
judging us. And
Yes.
that's something I had to really let go of. Like, I I live my life out loud now. It's been a journey really the last 4 years since my mom passed away in 2020, that I've really learned who I am, and I just am like, here I am, this is me. And
Hmm.
I'm not one of those, like, either take it or leave it kind of
Yeah.
person, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? This is who I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah.
But this is who I am.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be a light in the world. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to be a beacon of hope. And that's all I want, is just for people to know that it's okay to be you. You don't have to hide behind the filters. And with
Yeah.
social media, there's so much out there, that people, the comparison and all that, half
Yeah.
those people that you're seeing all their things, it's not real life. You go meet them outside of their Facebook, and you're like, oh wait, who are you? You're not
Right.
at all who I thought you were. So I
Yeah.
really am big on, like, living who you are, who you're meant to
Yes.
be, you
Yes.
know.
And I used to preach a lot about being authentic, and I had to take a look at myself and look how I was living and not even telling my own story, not even sharing my own story. And I was like, that was the turmoil inside me still. Once
Yeah.
I took that piece out and started living who I was and being able to share it and being proud of it. I am proud of where I came
Yes.
from. Uh,
Yes.
and it's the judgment, that you fear of. I have had people call me that I've done business with for years and years and years and say, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea. That makes me more proud of you." And so
Yeah.
that's been really nice to hear. Not that I was seeking that, I wasn't.
Right.
But
Right.
it has been nice to hear. I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
'Cause I was afraid of that, I was afraid of that judgment. I'm not anymore, believe me, but
Yeah.
but for
Yeah.
years I was.
For sure.
But it feels good and it feels it's just like it feels like life is worth living every day to the fullest, no matter what that looks like for
Yeah.
me. And that's what I saw in you when I reached out to you. I could just see it from your post, even. You just feel somebody's light shining.
Mhm.
You just feel it,
Yeah.
that frequency, that energy. And I could feel it,
There's
Tammy.
Oh, it's there. It's there. I felt it with you too. So, so I always like to tell people, I want to do another podcast with you
Mhm,
soon.
mhm.
What I really want to talk about on that one, we're going to wrap this one up, but is when we were talking about being the magnet for certain people, I really
Yes.
want to talk about that, and
Mhm.
how we had to change, to
Yes.
attract that anymore. But that'll be a whole nother podcast.
That is a whole nother story because I have some good
Whole nother
insight on that one.
Yeah, but I definitely want to talk about that.
That was
So,
great.
is there any last things, Joe, that you want to say to anybody on here?
Just anybody that is struggling or is still in active addiction and is just not feeling like there is any way to get out of it, there is always hope.
Mhm.
And there is always someone that you can reach out to. I know you could reach out to Tammy. I know you could reach out to me. And I know there's a lot of people in recovery that feel the same way. So don't ever feel like you cannot ask for help. That is the first step.
Yeah,
And don't feel if you've slipped up or you've relapsed, you're not worthy of asking for help. You can fall down 10 times, get back up 11. You
right.
just keep going and you keep getting back up.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
love that. That's so true. It's so true. I've been blessed to never relapse, and I know that, but to think of it and know how shameful people feel about it and everything like that. But we're all human, right? None
Absolutely.
of us live a perfect life. I've just been
Yeah.
blessed to not have relapsed. And
Yeah.
like you said, no matter what, no matter, there's always someone that knows that has lived your story,
Oh
basically.
yeah. Yeah. I'm not perfect. I've dabbled through the years. It's been, I'm not perfect. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but I know that is not my life.
Yeah.
And I will not continue to do that. I'm over it. But there was years when I was saying I was in recovery and I was dabbling, and you can tell when someone's not walking the walk and just talking the talk, and it doesn't benefit anybody. It only hurts you.
Yeah.
So it's not necessary. Just if you need help, ask for it.
Yes, exactly. So, well, I want to thank everybody, Joe, especially I want to thank you for jumping on Hope with me today. I really, really appreciate you sharing your story. It's an incredible story. You're an incredible woman, and I'm blessed to have you as my friend now. And
I
so
know.
now
I
I'm
love
gonna
that.
chuck through Oklahoma again. I'll have somebody else to go visit.
That would be awesome. You said
That'd be,
you're not very far when you come here, so that'd be awesome.
yeah,
We
that'd
go
be
dancing.
great.
We
So
go dancing.
yeah, there you go. My favorite thing to do. So anyways, everybody, thank you so much for getting on Hope. Like Joe said, if you're struggling with anything, reach out to someone. There's someone out there that's going to be there for you. Joe is here. I'm here. There's so many other people out there that are willing to help. And I just hope that today's story helped you. If you were at home, the one struggling and didn't think you could get up, hearing Joe's story will help you to get up and know that you can make it through it. Look at, she served time in prison, motorcycle stuff, all these things, stories. And look at her, she's a shining light now, and just her story is powerful. And I'm sure that your story would be too. So everybody have a great night. Joe, once again, thank you so much. And we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.